Greetings and welcome to the Transform Podcast. I'm your host, Christopher Anastasio. It is Thursday, June 30th, 2022, and this is episode 70 of our podcast. So, a couple of milestones, as you guys can tell from my little intro there. First of all, we've broken into the 70s range of episode numbers, so super excited about that. And also, it is the last day of the first half of the year 2022. So what we're going to do today, guys, is kind of talk a little bit about what that means and why that's significant. What should you be thinking about or doing at this stage of the game from a marketing perspective, sort of like a mid-year review, so to speak, and that sort of thing. And that's really where we want to sort of focus today. And use the time to help you guys think through some of those things. As I usually like to do at the beginning of every podcast is kind of look back a little bit at the last couple episodes, just put a little plug out there if you've missed some of our recent episodes. And last week, we published episodes 68 and 69. That was on June 21st and 23rd, respectively. In episode 68, we talked a little bit about why it's important to be polarizing with your content, not in a negative or provocatively controversial way, but to take a stand, to look at those gray areas, so to speak, in your industry, take a stand on those items and put that content out there and let people come into the comment section and either agree with you or disagree with you or agree or disagree with each other. But the more those comments pile up in there, the more engagement that your content is showing to the algorithm and that sort of thing. It really helps you out with your ability to be searched and found or presented to new audience members on that platform without having to obviously pay for the traffic. Episode 69, which came out on the 23rd, we talked about going big with your vision. I think I walked you guys through a couple examples of really bold vision statements that I thought were highly effective. We looked at things like LinkedIn and, I forget some of the other ones that I read off to you guys from a particular website. But just really thinking very big, very broad, very in the clouds, in the sky kind of thing with your vision and showing your customers and your audience that that's where you're aiming for. That's what you're striving for. You may not be there today, but you're always pushing yourself and you're always pushing your company in that direction. And striving to attain that level of performance and that level of success. So anyway, that's kind of an interesting one if you guys are struggling with what I like to call philosophical assets, things like your vision, your mission, your values, your taglines, your slogans. In particular, that vision statement, I think, really sets a tone that's so important. So anyway, check that out if you guys get a chance. That's episode 69 from last week. So anyway, so today's episode, we're mid-year of 2022. Feels like just yesterday, guys, that we published our first episode of 2022, which I'm actually, just out of curiosity, going to bring that episode up here and tell you which one that was. And that was episode 24. It just so happens to be an episode I did on what I like to call existential benefits. Came out on January 4th of this year. And so that was quite a few episodes ago that we did that. So just putting things in perspective, guys, the year has sort of flown by. You can see how quickly things move and how you end up maybe setting targets that are hard to achieve in a certain amount of time, and that time has already passed. And so we get it, and we're here to help you through aspects of that you feel you need outside help from a marketing perspective. But just a couple of suggestions. I obviously am not going to cover every base here in this episode, but in the next 6 to 10 minutes, I just kind of wanted to throw some things out there that I think are helpful to do at this point in the year if you have not either done them yet, or if you're doing these functions and you're not optimizing them and you feel like you could be doing better with them, and that sort of thing. So the first thing that I would say, guys, because it's always a mantra that I'm coming back to, which is, content. You got to produce more content, right? Lots of episodes on this podcast that either explicitly or intrinsically include that messaging. But it's a daunting task when you're running a business and you're wearing 25 hats. or even if you have a staff and you still have some very important functions that you're carrying out on a daily basis, it's hard to do this stuff. It's hard to totally, kind of account for these things. And so the first thing I would say, guys, is that, using something like a content calendar and scheduling tool can be very helpful to this end. So if you're trying to come up with content on a daily basis, and you're just, every day it's a new challenge to think of things to post, that's obviously a tough loop to get caught in. And there's going to be a lot of days where you just say, hey, look, I don't have the time. I can't think about it right now. I got other stuff to do. And the days go by and you don't get a chance to post and you don't get anything up there or out there from a marketing perspective. So one of the things, particularly in the social media aspect of digital marketing, is to create or utilize some kind of content calendar, whether it's a basic spreadsheet, whether it's some of these fancy tools that you'll find out there on the web, but a calendar that allows you, the month ahead, maybe 2 months ahead, whatever rhythm works best for you. I think obviously if you have a more static industry where things aren't changing a lot, you can plan as far out as you want, but sometimes you have to plan a little bit closer if you're including things like breaking news or latest developments or things that may age too quickly to plan too far out, right? So basically you want to have a situation where you have some kind of tool or mechanism to allow you some space to think ahead and say, okay, here's the month ahead. For example, let's take July in the United States. We have a holiday on July 4th. We have, the midsummer kind of activities going on, kids out of school, people on summer vacation. Like, you take all these sort of environmental factors into account, and then you look at the month and you say, okay, what can we accomplish, content-wise in this month, and what can we put out there that makes sense, right? And then the fact that you're getting into this loop ahead of time, it gives you the time and breathing room to plan that content out and have something, have a game plan, if you will, that's much easier to execute with that advanced thought. So that's one suggestion for you guys there. Now, in line with that, if you want to take it to the next level, instead of just planning it out and then having to go do it when the time comes, go to the social media platforms and do the posting and follow along with your own plan, you can, for fairly low cost, I mean, it's probably a whole other episode, we can go into this, but there are tools out there, there are apps out there that allow you to plug in your social media accounts and then schedule these posts. So you can effectively create like a 1-2 punch here where you've got a content calendar laid out that you've put some thought into, you've put some effort into planning it out, and then you go ahead and you load all that into your scheduling app, and you have all the graphics and the text in there, and you say exactly what date and time you want it to post, and it'll go out there for you automatically. So it's sort of a fire and forget way to get some advanced thinking into your content, and then also take away the need to actually go physically execute on each of those days where you have to remember, like, oh yeah, I was supposed to post something today or whatever. Okay, so that's just one thing I would look at, guys. I think that's one way to kind of help yourself along with this social media marketing thing. Another thing that I would recommend is separate from that, but another good activity now that we're at the mid-year point is, if you haven't had a chance to do it, if you've been putting it off, or maybe it's just getting stale because you did it a long time ago, go look at all your social media accounts, look at your profiles, make sure they reflect the current state of the business. Maybe you changed your tagline. Maybe there's a logo change or a branding effect that's not showing up on your social profiles and things like that. Maybe it just needs an overhaul. Maybe it's something that's still accurate, but you just want to change it, and you want to say, hey, I need to present a different look here. I want to swap out my tagline and try something different. So I would say, just kind of going through those social media profiles and just doing some hygiene, some cleanup, some double checking to make sure they're still relevant and effective would be another really good mid-year activity that you can kind of take on over the next several days and say, okay, let me sort of re-baseline this as we head into the second part of the year. And then lastly, the last suggestion I just kind of want to throw out there that you guys can consider is to look at performance data. If you're busy running your business and posting to social media, and you're actually putting that time and effort into the social media marketing, but you're not looking at what it's doing and what effect it's having, marketing without measurement, there's some phrase that I came across recently and I forget what it is exactly, but it's something about marketing without measuring the result. And when you're marketing without measuring the result, you're kind of just spending money or just spending time. And you don't know what investment you've made. You don't know if every dollar you've spent on Google Ads turns into $3 of revenue, or you don't know if every hour that you put into organic posting turns into, 1 to 2 to 3 clients. Like you can't get a sense of that if you're not looking at these things. So, all the different social media platforms have their own way of checking, metrics, post performance, things of that nature. I encourage you to kind of look around, get a feel for those things. Get used to the terms. What is an impression? What does click-through rate mean? What is CTR? What is CPM? Things like that. Just get a little bit familiar at that top level with the jargon and get comfortable with it, and just kind of get familiar with where the information is located, and then start gleaning as much insight as you can from that. Why did this one post resonate and hit 1,000 impressions, and this one didn't? This one got 10 impressions. Look at the differences. Was there longer copy? Was there a better graphic, or maybe there was no graphic on one of them and there was a graphic on another? Look for patterns. Look for things that your social platforms are telling you with this data. If you just go look for it, right? They keep metrics, they keep performance data there, and most of these accounts, you can convert them if you haven't already. I mean, this is probably step one, is convert them into a business account if you haven't already done that. Like for example, you go to Instagram, you start an account, and then you go into settings and you say switch to business account. And when you do that, you now open up all this data and all this metric tracking that goes on the app that shows you how well your posts are doing and how people are reacting to them. And I think Twitter has it. I think LinkedIn recently installed something called Creator Mode or something to that effect in late 2021, I think it was. So I would encourage you go into these platforms, take a look around, Google it if you can't find it, drop a line to us if you need help. But make sure you're using the business tools available to you, because that's where you're going to find this data. That's where you're going to find these metrics, and you're going to be able to start getting a sense of, okay, I see a pattern here. I see every time I post a long-form textual blog post with a picture, I get the most impressions, I get the most reactions, I get the most comments. Just using that as an example. So anyway, that I would encourage you guys to do that. Look, I'm not going to say this is easy when you're running a business, or especially if you're sort of in the executive suite of a business. Certainly companies like ours, Transform, exists to help you with these things and take this load off your plate. So I definitely would encourage you to at least think about it. Is it something that you could be done more effectively if you had a professional entity handling it for you? And so on that note, we'll kind of wrap up, and I'll direct you guys over to, if you want to check us out on LinkedIn or Facebook, just type in Transform. You can go to our website, transform.com. And then, of course, here on the podcast, hopefully you are following us and subscribing and sharing and liking our podcast as well. But if you do need to reach out to us, you can get to us through those other channels. And we'd be glad to do, what we offer at the top level on the website, the free social media audit. We can kind of hit the wave tops on this stuff for you guys and say, hey, here's what we see. Here's your performance. Here's what, looks like you can clean up your account here or there. You have a missed opportunity with that or something. We give you sort of at least a once over for free. You can get the free social media audit and you can go back to doing the stuff on your own. But we at least kind of help baseline you that way and kind of get you oriented properly. So anyway, we're going to wrap it up here, guys. Episode 70 here on this Thursday night. Hopefully you guys, if you're in the States here getting ready for Independence Day weekend, got a 3-day weekend coming up. So want to wish a happy 4th to everybody celebrating here in the States for that. We will be back with another episode, though, after today. So check out episode 71 coming. Most likely publish that on Friday. There's a chance that we'll publish that on Saturday. But anyway, thanks for listening to episode 70. Definitely use this mid-year point to do some of these refreshes that I talked about in today's episode. With that, guys, hope everybody has a great night. Thank you for listening, and we will talk to you again this week. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.